Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will be, I think, rather brief. First, I have no voice, so so I really felt that we are standing here today, Mr. Speaker, it's a historical moment for me. And I think it was very important for me to add my voice to this debate today. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the bill, the Sovereign Wealth Fund of St. Lucia bill, now on the floor of this august body, as presented by the by the Prime Minister and member for Parliament for Castries East, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we came into office and we gave a commitment to the people of St. Lucia that we are going to put the people of St. Lucia first. And Mr. Speaker, today, we are signaling to the people of St. Lucia and we are signaling to the world that as a small nation state, St. Lucia is saying that we are able, ready, and willing to take responsibility for our today and our tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. This is what this is all about, Mr. Speaker. We are saying that we have a leader and we have a government with the courage, the resilience, and the foresight to take tough actions for our today and our tomorrow. And our today is all what we are experiencing on the climate change. And it's very real for me as a parliamentary rep for Soufrière Fauché-Jacques when we saw the damage of Hurricane Beryl, Mr. Speaker. So we understand what that is. Other countries, I heard the member for Miku South mention all other countries. He didn't mention the damage in St. Lucia, so I'm not sure. But we had some damages there. Hurricane Beryl did give us a blow. And that is us taking actions to take care of what is happening for us. But Mr. Speaker, as well, I feel that this piece of legislation before us is one where we're signaling to our young people, especially some of our young people, that the culture of bounce and draw is not where we should be. Mr. Speaker, those of us who have a few years understand the culture, what our foreparents taught us, that we must save for a rainy day. That is what we know. That is what our grandparents and our seniors in our community has done for ages. And this is what we as a government is doing today. Mr. Speaker, when we look around us and what is happening in the world around us, especially we realize that we cannot rely on external parties. The time for us to make the provision for a rainy day is now. The time to lay a foundation for our young people is now. And the Prime Minister in his presentation did remind us that the IMF a few years ago did make certain suggestions to us. And I listened intently to the Prime Minister in his presentation, and I really want to commend him in terms of taking time to present to us the principles, the Santiago principles as it relates to international standards governing sovereign wealth funds. And there are some 24 of them, Mr. Speaker. And the Prime Minister took time to articulate each one of them. But as the auditor, I attempted to go through each one of them and refer them to sections of the bill. And today I will not repeat it, but I want to just tell John Public and you, Mr. Speaker, through you, that every section, the 24 principles, are covered in this bill. I have sat there and looked at every one of them under the principles of accountability, independence, and transparency. All the sections are covered. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on what is happening around the world. When we did a bit of research, and Prime Minister did indicate some 176 sovereign welfare funds, Mr. Speaker. Our research indicates that no less than $10 trillion is under management at the moment. $10 trillion, Mr. Speaker. And for us on this side of the world, we know a little about the Kuwaiti Fund, the Norwegian Fund, and closer to home, the Trinidad and Tobago Fund, Mr. Speaker. And just last month, on the 3rd of February, President Donald Trump signed an executive order directing the creation of the United States Sovereign Wealth Fund within the next year. So, Mr. Speaker, we are not doing anything that is strange here. We are doing what it is as a government to run our country. The member for Castries Southeast did mention the National Insurance Corporation and the fund, Mr. Speaker. But I want us to remember the National Provident Fund that was set up in 1970, some 55 years ago, Mr. Speaker. When it was presented, there was a lot of pushback. There was significant pushback. Today, 55 years later, with some amendments and adjustments, we have a fund that is over $2 billion, Mr. Speaker. And all that time, I'm raising that there has been the NIC reports to the Minister for Finance, Mr. Speaker. There's a structure, there is the board, there's an investment committee, and so on. But it reports to a minister. I am saying so based on the contribution of the leader of the opposition, who continually commented on the fact that it is a minister that is appointing the board, and it is a minister that's appointing the investment manager. Every piece of legislation that we've had in this august body, the institution or the piece of legislation reports to a minister. So why is it that the leader of the opposition is standing in this august body and attempting to mislead the general public? It is a minister. Today it is the Minister for Finance here. Tomorrow is another, but it is always to a government minister. And you are saying so when the house was full of young persons. You have a responsibility to the young people of this country. You have that. You have a responsibility to the young people of this country. Those that were here and those that are not here. And you need to, you will not derail me, I'm speaking now. They gave you an hour. They gave you an hour to do what you're doing. Stop misleading our young people. It is not good.
I agree.
It is not good. We need to tell our young people that they cannot consume everything that they get today.
That's right.
They must put something aside for a rainy day. The foundation that we have is a piece of legislation to ensure that this fund operates in compliance with international standards. And I stand here today as an auditor to tell John Public that this piece of legislation is in line with international standards. And I want to also tell John Public listening, as you, the member for Miku South and our leader of opposition, you raised that fact about the minister and the minister. What you are doing is trying to show that there is a lack, you have a lack of trust in the people of this country. And a lack of respect for the people of this country. And it is, no, it's true. It's a lack of trust and a lack of respect.
Yes, yes.
And you need to move from that to understand that in St. Lucia, we have the ability, the people with the ability and the capability to drive our own destination. The leader of the opposition also stood in this august body a while ago and told the members that the millions, there is a clause as it relates to the audit of the board, and that the millions of dollars will not be audited. which means that the member did not read the document before him. Section 48 of this document speaks clearly on the audit of the fund. So, Mr. Speaker, I want the member to stand corrected on that. Section 48 of that fund, of the bill, specifically make provision for the audit of the fund. That is very important to John Public. In addition, the leader of the opposition did report and spoke about the fact that the board will report to the minister, and the minister will just put that report aside. I want to bring to the attention, through you again, Mr. Speaker, that Section 50 of the legislation speaks very clearly to the fact the annual report of the fund, and I'm reading from Section 50, the board shall no later than 60 days after the end of each financial year submit to the minister an annual report on the fund during the preceding financial year. And it says, A, annual report under Section 1 must include a balance sheet of the fund, investment of the fund, all payments into the fund, the total income received from investment of the fund, all payments from the fund. And Section 53 reads, the minister shall lay before Parliament reports submitted to him or her by the board under Sections 1, 3, and 5 no later than 30 days after the reports have been received, or within 30 days of the first sitting of Parliament after the minister receives the report, whichever is applicable. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few comments, I want to say that I wholeheartedly support the bill before us, and I am particularly pleased this afternoon that I was able to add my croaky voice to this important piece of legislation that is before us. I support this bill wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker.